Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are strapping in for something massive.
We really are.
We're taking all the source material, the freshest reports, the leaks, and a deep analysis of the 4 planned trailers for what might be the biggest movie event on the horizon.
Avengers. Doomsday.
Exactly. We're going to slice right through the noise and tell you what absolutely matters about this film. The release date, December 18th, 2026. It feels both ages away and terrifyingly close.
And our mission today is, well, it's a heavy one. It's all about the stakes. We are synthesizing every single piece of recent news, every frame of those trailers, to really understand the mechanics of this multiverse saga collapse.
Right.
We're here to give you that shortcut so you can be the most informed person in the room about why this film has to land perfectly and, you know, what happens if it doesn't.
And what makes this particular deep dive so critical, I think, is this central paradox at the film's core. On one hand, Doomsday it's the ultimate reunion.
The biggest one yet.
We're seeing the return of these massive, beloved legacy characters who basically built the MCU. We're talking Chris Evans back as Steve Rogers.
And Robert Downey Jr., but not as Iron Man.
No, as Victor Von Doom, which is just a whole other level of analysis. And then you've got the definitive appearance of the Fox X-Men cast. Sir Ian McKellen, Sir Patrick Stewart.
It's huge, but here's the thing. Here's the rub, as you said.
Yeah.
They're all returning under this definitive shadow of, well, impending doom and permanent, irreversible losses. The scale is monumental, but the cost, I think, for the first time in years, feels absolutely personal.
I totally agree.
And that paradox, I mean, that's the entire narrative engine for the saga's conclusion. All the sources we've looked at are crystal clear on this. For years, the multiverse has been criticized, right?
For having no consequences.
Exactly. Yeah. Infinite variance. Just jump to another reality. If a character dies, why should you, the viewer, feel anything? There's another version just a universe away.
Right.
Doomsday and its sequel, Secret Wars, are positioned as the definitive, destructive answer to that exact complaint. The multiverse isn't the escape hatch anymore.
It's the cause.
It is the cause of the irreversible consequences. The sources consistently point to this being a foundational soft reboot of the entire MCU. So the stakes are higher than anything we've seen since Thanos. This isn't just another sequel.
What?
It's an infrastructure collapse.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's start with the thematic elements, because everything we've seen from that first announcement trailer, which was mostly just atmosphere.
Right, very moody.
All the way to the 4th full-length reveal.
Yeah.
It is just drenched in a kind of darkness we haven't genuinely felt in the MCU since, what, Infinity War?
I'd say so, yeah. It's a very deliberate tonal shift. I mean, if you compare the marketing for Doomsday to the often colorful, character-driven stuff we got in Phase 4 and 5.
Night and day.
It's stark. There's almost no levity here. And the Russo brothers, who are back directing, they're reportedly acutely aware that after years of multiversal hijinks, real lasting consequences are the key. That's what's going to make this a must-watch event.
It's a narrative necessity.
It is. They have to establish that emotional weight immediately.
And we can actually unpack that weight
by
looking at the individual character teasers. Let's start with Thor, a character who's had maybe the most radical tonal shift in the MCU.
For sure.
His teaser is incredibly short, but it is devastating. We see the God of Thunder, who's recently been portrayed as this kind of lovable goof. And he's actually kneeling, praying that he will return from this one last fight.
That is a massive moment for his arc. I mean, think about it. Thor has been defined by loss, his family, his home, his love, but he's always carried this sort of immortal confidence.
Right.
In Love and Thunder, he was trying to find peace, to put down the weight of being a god. So the fact that he is praying for his own survival, not for victory, but just to come back.
It implies a fear we haven't seen in him for a long time.
Exactly. Not since maybe the moment Thanos killed Loki right in front of him. It signifies that even his godly status is being challenged by the sheer cosmic severity of this incursion. His survival is explicitly framed as not guaranteed.
And if you're thinking about a soft reboot, having one of the 3 original pillars, Thor, Hulk, maybe Hawkeye fall permanently, that's the ultimate signal of change.
It would be.
But that scene, that bleakness, it juxtaposes so sharply with the return of Captain America.
Yes. The sources have confirmed Chris Evans is back as Steve Rogers, and his appearance in the teasers is handled with extreme care, unlike everyone else who's shrouded in doom and gloom.
Steve is shown in a moment of fragile peace. He's holding an infant son.
And that scene, it functions perfectly to highlight exactly what he stands to lose. You show the hero the perfect, quiet domestic life they fought for, the one they got after putting down the shield.
Right before you threaten to burn it all down.
Precisely. It's a deliberate choice to maximize the emotional stakes of his presence without him having to say a single word of panicked dialogue.
That's brilliant. Instead of focusing on his sacrifice, you focus on his peace, which in turn makes the threat feel even more monstrous. And then we move to the X-Men teaser, which just ramps the existential dread up to 11.
That teaser is described as being borderline horror. The imagery is just profoundly bleak. You've got the Xavier Mansion, a place of hope, in ruins.
Completely wrecked.
And looming in the background, you see them, the massive mutant-killing sentinels. Then you get that gut-wrenching shot of a desperate Cyclops, Scott Summers, just on his knees, apparently witnessing the aftermath of a final failed battle.
But it's the dialogue, especially between Magneto and Xavier, that really carries that weight. What did the sources emphasize about their conversation?
It's all about finality. They're talking about how death comes for us all, and Xavier asks Magneto, "Who will we be when we finally close our eyes, old friend?" The context here isn't just their own mortality, it's the death of their entire reality. The visuals strongly suggest that several X-Men, maybe even their entire continuity, have already fallen in their home universe.
So this isn't just a fun cameo.
No, not at all. It's setting the stage for their appearance to be a true, tragic last stand. It's a somber farewell to a 25-year cinematic legacy.
And even the final trailer, the one that focuses on technology and global defense with the Wakandans and the Fantastic Four, it still has that ominous tone. We hear Shuri's narration.
Yes, and it's rooted in her nation's spiritual customs. Shuri, as the Black Panther, is heard referencing the need to prepare for the afterlife.
Which heavily implies this massive existential threat.
Right. In Wakandan culture, the ancestral plane is key. Preparing for the afterlife means you're accepting the inevitability of death on a global, maybe even multiversal scale. This isn't a pep talk she's giving.
It's an acknowledgement of mass casualties.
It is. The whole theme of impending doom makes it incredibly difficult to believe Doomsday will end without some kind of irreversible consequences. It validates the idea that the directors are committed to making the losses real and significant.
Okay, so let's transition from if people die to, well, who is most likely on the chopping block, according to the reports and just industry logic.
We have several prime candidates. We've already established Thor feels like a contender for a permanent loss. It would be a beautiful final sacrifice to complete his arc.
But the most compelling prediction, and you could argue the most cynical one, involves Bucky Barnes.
Right. And this is where you have to look at the industry structure itself. There was a recent report that Sebastian Stan has joined the cast of The Batman Part 2.
Rumored to be playing Harvey Dent, a major role.
A major key role. And that makes his loss in the MCU seem incredibly likely. Now, I know you were a bit skeptical about whether Marvel really schedules deaths based on what rival franchises are doing.
I am. I mean, are we really saying the death of a character as foundational as Bucky is just dictated by Warner Bros. Hiring choices? It feels like it reduces a decade of storytelling to a spreadsheet decision.
I see that, but it's less about Marvel actively scheduling a death the moment a contract is signed, and more about logistical and narrative finality. When a major actor commits to a multi-film role in a rival franchise-defining project,
Especially one as demanding as the DCU.
it drastically limits their future availability. It changes their contract negotiation leverage. Marvel needs to clear the decks for this reboot, and Stan's long-term commitment elsewhere provides a clean, permanent, and, a necessary narrative exit for Bucky.
So it becomes a case of narrative necessity, not malice.
It allows both the character and the actor to find a definitive endpoint in the current MCU structure.
Okay. The other major group that's clearly slated for a final exit is, naturally, the Fox X-Men Legacy cast.
That is absolutely necessary for the future of the MCU. Marvel Studios is actively getting ready to debut their own internally cast MCU X-Men team right after Secret Wars.
So this has to be their last ride.
It does. The appearance of the legacy actors, McKellen, Stewart, and the confirmed return of Mars and Cyclops, it all strongly suggests this is the last ride and true last stand for those specific variants and actors. It's a respectful, final goodbye designed to give the audience closure.
Before the reboot introduces entirely new faces.
And new timelines.
But let's not forget the key return that shifts the whole emotional landscape. Robert Downey Jr. as the central villain, Victor Von Doom. To have RDJ, the man who started the Infinity Saga, returned not as Iron Man, but as the primary antagonist driving the end of the Multiverse Saga. That's a masterstroke of symmetry.
It's more than symmetry. I think it's the ultimate narrative bookend. You know, when Tony Stark sacrificed himself, he was cleaning up a mess.
Right.
When Doom arrives, he is creating the mess that requires the entire universe to be reset. And if you think about RDJ's unique charisma, casting him as Doom is brilliant because it subverts the classic portrayal.
How so?
Comic book Doom is often very stiff, armored, imperious. RDJ brings this inherent manipulative charisma. You, the audience, might actually find yourself sympathizing with this version of Doom, or at least understanding his cold logic, precisely because of the actor playing him.
He becomes the charismatic, intellectual dark mirror to Tony Stark.
He does. And think about what that means for the heroes. If they're fighting a villain who looks and sounds like their fallen friend,
That adds a whole layer of psychological complexity to the battle.
absolutely. The confrontation becomes deeply personal. It forces characters like Captain America or Thor to confront the ghost of their past, embodied by the man who made the MCU what it is. The stakes are not just multiversal, they're deeply psychological. It ensures that dark tone from the trailers carries real emotional resonance.
We're heading into an era where the villain has the face of the foundational hero.
And the stakes are permanent.
Let's transition now from the psychology of loss to the mechanics of the collapse itself, specifically the incursion event, using the plot points we got from that final trailer. This is where we start to see the physical, gut-wrenching evidence of the instability that Doom is exploiting.
Indeed. The fourth trailer was the most explicit, technically. It focused heavily on the Fantastic Four and the Wakandans, and it confirms the first meeting between these two massive powers in the main MCU timeline, Earth 666.
We see Shuri, the Black Panther, and M'Baku, King of Wakanda, meeting the Fantastic Four: Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and the Thing.
It's a collision of cultures, but it's also a collision of universes, because the source material strongly suggests this Fantastic Four is from a different Earth, Earth 828.
Right, and the question of how they even got there is a plot point. Their ship was last seen hovering in space during the post-credits of Thunderbolts.
The fact that it crash-landed in Wakanda immediately establishes them as travelers from another universe who've been thrust violently into the Earth 616 crisis, presumably as a direct result of the incursions.
So they're not visiting. They're refugees.
They are refugees. But the real chilling plot reveal, the one that truly signals the absolute severity of this crisis, it centers entirely on Namor and his kingdom.
This was a huge moment in the trailer.
Tenoch Huerta's Namor returns, which is great for fans. He's now wearing his classic, comic-accurate blue suit with the tall collar. Namora is back, too. So Talokan survived Wakanda forever. But then the trailer delivers the biggest, most terrifying reveal of all. Talokan, the magnificent underwater kingdom, appears to have had all of its water just evaporated or drained.
The visual is heartbreaking. Namor is just sitting on his throne, desolate, staring out at what should be his vibrant aquatic kingdom.
And it's now a vast, cracked desert floor.
How do you even lose an entire ocean? What does an incursion look like on that kind of massive environmental scale?
This is the visual proof that the multiverse isn't just creating little tears or casting variants anymore. It is physically erasing the infrastructure of reality. An incursion, as it's been established, is a moment where the vibrational frequencies of two realities start to collide. As our Earth 616 prepares to impact another universe, powerful cosmic forces likely orchestrated or amplified by Doom could be pulling away massive elements of our world.
Deleting them.
Literally deleting them to make room for the encroaching reality.
Like a massive cosmic vacuum cleaner, just sucking away the least stable parts first. And Talokan, being this hidden civilization powered by a unique ecosystem, it would be highly unstable when subjected to that kind of strain.
Precisely. Losing all of that water, the defining feature of its existence, is the ultimate existential threat. It signifies the end of the MCU as we know it is approaching, not through explosions, but through fundamental reality erasure. It's the most visceral consequence we've seen so far.
And this crisis has massive immediate implications for Namor himself, a character who already has a, let's say, tenuous relationship with the surface world.
This is crucial. If Talokan is destroyed, it drastically increases the chance that Namor will be driven by desperation and vengeance, not by an alliance with the Avengers.
So if the heroes fail to stop the incursions,
Namor might turn to the antagonist who promises order, even if that order is tyrannical. This directly mirrors events in the 2015 Secret Wars comic.
right, where he allied with Dr. Doom.
believing Doom's plan for absolute control was the only way to save something from the chaos. This makes the story in Doomsday infinitely more complex, because Namor becomes the ultimate wild card.
So the incursions provide the chaos, and Namor provides the desperate, powerful anti-hero motivation. But driving all of it, the master puppeteer, is Robert Downey Jr. as Victor Von Doom. We know Secret Wars is the soft reboot, so how does Doom become the catalyst for that?
His role is all about manipulation and power acquisition. In the 2015 comic run, Dr. Doom realized the incursions were leading to the inevitable death of everything, and rather than fight it, he decided to control it. He gained reality-altering powers, often linked to these powerful entities called the Beyonders, and he used these powers to stitch together pieces of various colliding realities, the ones he deemed worthy of salvation, into a single planet.
And that planet is Battleworld. We get to pause here because Battleworld is the centerpiece of Secret Wars, but the concept is often oversimplified. What is Battleworld in this context?
Battleworld is not a unified planet. It's a horrifying, stitched-together mosaic of conflicting, unstable realities. Imagine taking New York from one timeline, merging it with a piece of the Old West from another, and putting a kingdom of zombies right next door.
And these pieces, these domains, are all ruled by his appointed barons.
With Doom using his new power as God Emperor Doom, the absolute dictator of this fragile artificial reality, the genius of the setup is that Doomsday is showing us the catastrophic events, the incursions, the destruction of Talokan that will give Doom the opportunity to do this in Secret Wars.
He's the one who initiates the collapse that the heroes are fighting against.
Exactly. Not because he wants destruction, but because he believes only he is fit to govern whatever survives.
So the villain is forcing the reboot by turning the multiversal collapse into a weapon he can control. The heroes aren't just fighting to save Earth 616, they're fighting to prevent Doom from becoming the god of the next version of reality.
That's it. The stakes shift from survival to control over the entire universe's destiny. And the moment you cast RDJ as Doom, you have to realize that this version of the villain, maybe more than any other, sees himself as the hero.
He's implementing a painful, but necessary solution.
An intellectually arrogant solution combined with the power to erase and recreate existence. That's what makes him the ultimate and most permanent antagonist of the Multiverse Saga.
Speaking of collisions and cultures, let's circle back to the Fantastic Four in Wakanda and this fascinating deep-cut theory about their home universe, Earth 828. This theory suggests that interaction we see in the trailer is way more complex than just a simple first contact.
It is.
And it all starts with that disarming, almost boring interaction between Ben Grimm and M'Baku.
That little exchange holds the key to the whole theory. When M'Baku, the king of Wakanda, introduces himself with all the appropriate gravitas, Ben Grimm, the Thing, seems completely nonplussed.
He doesn't gasp, he doesn't react to the advanced tech or the king. He just casually says he's from Yancey Street.
Yancey Street is classic Ben Grimm. It's his working-class New York touchstone. But he's in another universe, meeting an African monarch whose technology is supposed to be beyond anything the outside world has seen. His casualness suggests he's not that surprised.
It creates this fascinating narrative friction, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If Ben were from our Earth 616, meeting M'Baku would be a massive cultural shock, especially for a guy from 1960s New York.
But he's not. This Fantastic Four is from Earth 828, which, based on promo material for their solo film, First Steps, is described as retro-futuristic.
Right. Set around the 1960s, but with incredibly advanced tech.
So the question is, why would a 1960s New York be so futuristic?
Wait, slow down. You're saying the explanation for why a 1960s universe could be so advanced that a king from a secret African nation wouldn't shock Ben Grimm is rooted in Wakandan history. That's a massive connection.
It is, and it's a genius way to apply existing MCU lore to solve a multiversal paradox. The key premise is all about Wakanda's historical role. The MCU has consistently established that Wakanda's tech has always outpaced the world because they stayed hidden.
To protect their vibranium and their knowledge.
So the theory posits that in Earth 828, that isolation ended far, far earlier than in our universe.
Right. The idea is that in Earth 828, Wakanda unveiled itself sooner. This earlier exposure or collaboration could be what explains why New York in that universe is so technologically advanced.
Exactly. If Wakanda's shared technology, or if their mere presence on the world stage inspired scientists of that era, it would drastically accelerate global development. It moves the explanation for Earth 828's tech beyond just Reed Richards' individual genius and grounds it in global multiversal collaboration.
But what evidence is there? beyond Ben Grimm's lack of surprise, that supports this theory.
This is where the deep dive into the first steps sources really pays off. The promotional material for that film referenced that Earth 828 had demilitarized.
Oh, that's interesting.
Think about that implication. Demilitarization aligns perfectly with the idea that Wakanda could unveil itself sooner.
Because if the world was less prone to conflict, if there was global demilitarization, Wakanda wouldn't need to fear their vibranium being exploited by warmongering nations, which was their big fear in Earth 616.
Exactly right. If global conflict wasn't as much of a threat, Wakanda might have felt safe enough to step onto the world stage decades earlier. In that scenario, Reed Richards of Earth 828 likely grew up or did his research in a world already benefiting from vibranium tech, making the jump to the Fantastic Four's systems less abrupt.
And if Wakanda unveiled itself earlier, and Ben Grimm is so casual, it strongly implies the Fantastic Four might have had pre-existing bonds with their version of Wakanda.
Maybe they even actively collaborated with them. This meeting in Doomsday, then, isn't a culture clash. It's a reunion of allies from different universes.
Which is why Ben says, "I'm from Yancey Street." He's just identifying himself by his specific cultural touchstone, because the macro stuff, the advanced tech, the powerful African kingdom, that's just the established, non-shocking norm in his world.
It's a fascinating and deeply satisfying theory for how their universe became so unique, and it gives this Wakanda encounter in Doomsday a critical layer of plot significance. It's a key example of the Russos leveraging existing lore to enrich the crossover.
The collision of universes in Doomsday isn't just technological or geographical, it's temporal too. It's bringing together different eras of superhero cinema. Seven is celebrating these legacy actors, especially the returning X-Men cast. It's impossible to ignore the meta-commentary around their age and longevity, which is joked about in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes, that delightful meta-joke about Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine till he's 90 actually becomes remarkably literal when you apply it to two of the other returning X-Men actors.
We are talking about the true titans of Marvel cinema here.
We're talking about Sir Ian McKellen as Magneto and Sir Patrick Stewart as Professor X. By the time Doomsday is released in late 2026, McKellen will be 87 years old.
Wow.
And Stewart will be 86.
Deadpool's quip about playing superheroes into old age is practically a documentary for these two.
And what's really amazing is their tenure. Both of them, along with Hugh Jackman, debuted in Bryan Singer's X-Men way back in 2000.
That's a quarter century devoted to these roles.
Just as long as Jackman with Wolverine. It's an extraordinary testament to their dedication and, the enduring power of these foundational characters.
It elevates their return beyond just simple fan service. This confirms it's not a brief cameo, it's intended to be a genuine final bow, a full-stop conclusion to the Fox X-Men saga.
We're watching history unfold.
And it gives their dialogue about mortality in the teaser even deeper emotional weight. These are characters and actors facing their final, grandest confrontation. So from the legacy heroes, let's look at the next generation. One of the most exciting new heroes of this saga, who's stepping up to fight alongside these titans. Shang-Chi. Simu Liu has commented a lot on his character's evolution in Doomsday.
And this will only be Shang-Chi's second major outing since his 2021 debut, so the character arc needs to be significant to justify his place on this Avengers-level team fighting Doom.
Liu said audiences will see a different, more confident version of the hero.
Right, necessitated by the time gap between films.
He specifically stated that Shang-Chi is older, and since Liu himself is older, he gets to bring a quality of self-assurance to the role. He mentioned that his debut film showed him as this hesitant, panic fish out of water. Now, there's a time jump, and audiences will meet him at a place where he's feeling a little more lived in with who he is and his responsibilities.
That growth is crucial. It confirms he's expected to be a full-blown Avenger. He's past the initial chaos of inheriting the 10 rings. He is now a seasoned hero, responsible for this massively powerful cosmic artifact and ready for the highest stakes conflict.
He has to be, to stand alongside Captain America and Thor.
And maybe even the Fantastic Four.
And the connection between these generations is physical, on set. Liu also teased the excitement of working directly with the X-Men legacy actors.
That was a highlight of his recent interviews. He talked about the excitement of learning who was in the cast and specifically named Sir Ian McKellen, Sir Patrick Stewart, calling them iconic people he grew up watching.
And he mentioned maybe doing scenes with them.
Which speaks to the massive, sprawling nature of this cast. You have the confident, next-gen heroes like Shang-Chi interacting directly with the titans of Marvel's cinema past. It's an explicit passing of the torch.
It's going to be a fascinating visual contrast. The confident, lived in Shang-Chi and the near 90-year-old icons facing their final stand, that convergence of eras is really what will define the emotional core of this film. Now, let's shift gears and look at how the MCU is expanding its scope, not just cosmically with incursions, but down on the street level, and also how it continues to just dominate Hollywood benchmarks and casting decisions. We have a new street hero on the way, Paladin, set to be introduced in Vision Quest.
This is a shrewd addition to Marvel's growing street-level roster. That ecosystem has been quietly building with characters like Spider-Man, Moon Knight, Echo, Daredevil, and of course the returning Punisher. Paladin is a very specific type of antihero.
Okay, for anyone who might not be deep into the 70s Marvel catalog, let's explain who Paladin is. He's definitely an anti-hero deep cut.
He was introduced in Daredevil #150 back in 1978. His core identity is a no-nonsense, costumed private investigator.
A mercenary.
Essentially, yeah, a highly skilled mercenary who is primarily motivated by money. He takes assignments from various figures, skirts the law, and has no moral qualms fighting superheroes if they get in his way, as long as the paycheck is right.
So his moral compass points exclusively toward his bank account.
Exactly, but with a slight twist. While he's a mercenary, he's highly disciplined. He's got a small degree of super strength, excellent martial arts skills, but his signature weapon is a specially designed stun gun.
And that stun gun is key, because despite his background, Paladin tries very hard not to kill his opponents. He's tough, cynical, and operates outside the law, but he maintains this professional restraint.
That philosophy, the mercenary with a strict, if self-serving, moral code, is what has led to so many fascinating team-ups in the comics. He's worked with Spider-Man, Captain America, and most relevantly, Daredevil.
Their interactions are often a good cop, bad cop dynamic, right?
Totally. The heroes object to his transactional worldview, but circumstances constantly force them to cooperate. He represents a necessary, messy element of street justice.
So what's his MCU potential here, starting with his debut in Vision Quest?
Vision Quest seems like a very specific choice, maybe leveraging his detective skills in a mystery involving the rebuilt Vision. But his long-term potential is in the street sphere. He could interact with Daredevil in Born Again Season 2.
Or even more compellingly, you pair him with the considerably more violent Punisher.
That would be dynamic friction. Frank Castle has no moral constraint on killing, while Paladin does. Their cooperation could really put Paladin's professional boundaries to the ultimate test,
forcing him to choose between a job well done and his own code.
He becomes a key player in pulling together this growing, morally gray street hero roster. He expands the moral spectrum of the MCU's local conflicts.
Let's move from new characters to the big picture business of Hollywood dominance. We have a fascinating note here about Nia DaCosta and her experience on the Marvels.
It's an important moment of perspective. The Marvels was the MCU's biggest box office bomb. It grossed only $206 million against a reported $270 million budget, and it got mixed reception.
You would expect some bitterness, especially from the director.
But DaCosta's reaction 2 years later is surprisingly mature and positive. She expressed profound gratitude for the experience and the relationships she made, saying when she looks back, everyone tried their best.
And those relationships carried over.
Directly. She mentioned visiting the Avengers, Doomsday set last summer, catching up with producers, seeing the Russos, and confirming that some of her friends from the Marvels cast were there, working on the next film.
A subtle but clear tease that we might see Brie Larson, Iman Vellani, or Teyonah Parris in Doomsday.
And regardless of the box office, the Marvels played an essential foundational role in setting up the Multiverse Saga's finale, didn't it?
It did the essential heavy lifting. That post-credits scene was crucial to the whole Doomsday and Secret Wars plotline. It reintroduced Kelsey Grammer's Beast when Monica Rambeau woke up in a new universe.
Likely the Fox continuity. And Grammer is confirmed to reprise that role in Doomsday, directly linking the previous film's narrative failure to the next major crossover central catastrophic plot point, the collision of realities.
Now for the final, staggering industry benchmark. Zoe Saldaña has officially passed a fellow MCU star to become the highest-grossing actor of all time.
That's correct. Saldaña's total gross has reached $16.8 billion, which surpasses Scarlett Johansson, who holds $16.4 billion.
And Saldaña's latest surge came from the continued success of Avatar, Fire and Ash.
A stunning $1.23 billion worldwide after its fourth weekend.
Wow.
And while the MCU obviously plays a huge role in this, Saldaña has 5 key MCU films. Her dominance comes from her unique presence in multiple major overlapping franchises.
We're talking MCU, the Avatar trilogy, which has amassed $6 billion, 3 Star Trek films.
And even her early appearance in Pirates of the Caribbean, she is truly the queen of the modern blockbuster.
She is a stronger, more varied combination of franchises than Johansson. This milestone really highlights how a few key actors have come to define the modern blockbuster landscape.
And it speaks directly to the increasing trend of interconnected casting. Let's briefly touch on the growing list of key actors who have appeared in both major comic universes.
The news that Sebastian Stan and Scarlett Johansson were cast in the Batman Part 2 is the perfect recent example.
It's Hollywood's version of the multiverse colliding. The list just goes on. Zachary Levi, who was Fandral in Thor before he was Shazam.
David Harbour, who was in Suicide Squad before Red Guardian. Frank Grillo, who was Crossbones and is now Rick Flag Sr. in the DCU reboot.
And you can't forget Chris Evans, Human Torch, Captain America, but also in the DC Vertigo adaptation, The Losers. It's an ecosystem that recycles its talent relentlessly.
The movement of talent is constant.
Driven by the sheer volume of production required to keep these cinematic universes alive, it ensures that while the multiverse is colliding on screen in Doomsday, the industry itself is continuously mixing and matching its biggest stars, reinforcing that these actors are global icons, regardless of the logo they wear.
So let's bring this deep dive home and synthesize what we've learned about Avengers. Doomsday. This film is being positioned as the absolute pivot point. The moment where the Multiverse Saga's frustrating lack of consequence finally and definitively ends.
And that shift is driven by the stark reality of incursions, a physical, destructive force that can literally drain the water from an entire hidden kingdom like Talokan.
Erasing physical geography, shattering entire societies.
This crisis forces the collision of universes, eras, and generations of actors, from the brand new, confident Shang-Chi to the 80-something-year-old X-Men legends facing their final stand.
The destruction teased is not just dramatic flair, it's literal infrastructure change. Orchestrated by Robert Downey Jr.'s charismatic, intellectual Victor Von Doom, designed to force the foundational soft reboot of the entire cinematic timeline.
The stakes are permanent, and the heroes are fighting to save the future, not the past.
And that leads us to a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over before December 2026. We've established that the multiversal threat likely vaporized Talokan's water, leaving Namor staring out at a giant, desolate desert. If Namor, a character who's previously sided with Doctor Doom in the comics, sees his entire kingdom destroyed, he is going to be motivated by vengeance and, more importantly, restoration.
So what price will he demand from the surviving heroes, or, more likely, from Doctor Doom, to restore his world and his people in Secret Wars?
Does the King of Atlantis become the ultimate vengeful wildcard? And is the restoration of Talokan the ultimate bargaining chip for control of Battleworld and the future of reality itself?
The answers, for better or worse, arrive December 18th, 2026.
Until then, keep digging.